Hello, Internet, and welcome to episode number 232 of the Comic Watchers Show. I'm your host, Matt. Chad is on his way. I promise. This is now not the second episode in a row because Chad surprised us all with an awesome Alex Bagnadel interview earlier this week, but it's the second out of 3 episodes that Chad has been late. So we're going to give him a hard time when he starts. It's all about love. He's probably dealing with kiddo stuff up there in lonely upstate New York, away from civilization. So we hope he's not getting eaten by bears or some shit like that. But our guest tonight is the one and only Kyle Starks, returning to our silly little podcast. Hello, Kyle.
Hey, what's up? We're here. We're doing it.
Yeah, we made it happen. I love when social media does what it's supposed to do and brings random people together, or not random people, just people in general. And this was one of those occasions where I was just able to reach out and be like, "Hey, buddy, what's up?" And you said, "Hey," and we made it happen. So, man, what's been up? Last time we talked, I Hate This Place was just kicking off, and although I know, right? It's been a minute. I will not get into my feelings about how it didn't get to finish the 3 arcs you told us you had planned for it.
I did my finish though. I got my ending.
I know, but I was so ready for those 18 issues.
Yeah, I was hoping for. I think it would have been 15 because I think they're 5 issue. And I'll tell you the story. I'll give you the tea.
Yeah.
Basically, once we wrapped up 5 and we were about to start the second arc, they said something along the lines to me like, we are uncertain if there will be a third arc. I think there would have been based on sales. I think if I would have risked it, you guys know what I mean, it probably would have been okay, and I probably would have got those 5, but I was like, I'm not going to. I have my ending. Like, I want to do this ending. I don't want to not do the ending.
Yeah.
I couldn't live, and it's a constant worry. And I know there's sort of, I'm a full story guy, right? Like, my preference is beginning, middles, and ends. So you get like this whole arc, whatever that arc is. And living in the sort of modern state, I know for some people it's very frustrating to do these sort of like 4 to 6 issue series arcs. Like, I feel like it's kind of well suited for me because I always get to my ending, right? I always think this is the window and I have my ending. So I could have done that for 50 issues. I could have done I Hate This Place for forever.
Yeah.
But I wanted
cast of characters.
Yeah, I wanted that ending, and I got my ending. I just wasn't going to risk it. I think we probably would have got to do it. I just can't live. I can't live with maybes. I can't live with maybes. So it would have been nice. I wish I could have done it forever. In fact, you know what? There's probably someone at Skybound going, well, you know, if you wouldn't have wrapped it up, we'd do one more, and its sales would decide like how far it would go. So maybe there's a universe, a sliding doors where I was like, let's risk it, and I'm on issue 25 now.
Right.
Like you never know, but I'm gonna play it safe, boy. That's how I've always been.
So it goes. It's still an awesome series, and if you haven't read it, you should definitely check it out. There's 2 trades out in the world for the 2 arcs. It is alternatively titled "Fuck This Place."
Dirty word.
For the R-rated crowd.
So you want to know something crazy about that book that I like, because I just did 3 conventions in 5 weeks, and there are things that you forget because you're
definitely.
That book was Eisner nominated, GLAAD nominated, and Bram Stoker nominated.
No kidding.
Yeah, crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
The little book that could.
Well, it didn't. it did not. I think trades are doing pretty good though. You guys should check it out.
That's awesome.
It's a good
you
spooky
should
book.
totally check it out. Since then, you've unleashed Peacemaker Tries Hard. From DC Black Label. That was bar none one of the funniest things I've read in a very, very long time. Very Garth Ennis vis-a-vis Hitman vibes in terms of the humor quality. So
the highest level.
That's a pretty damn high bar in my book.
Yeah, that's as good as it gets. Thank you. It's very kind. We try our best.
Well, it shows. It absolutely shows. Now, right now, over in the world of Dark Horse, you've got Barfly. I believe 2 issues have come out, and it is set in the world of Patton Oswalt and Jordan Bloom's Minor Threats. What can you tell us about Barfly?
Yeah, Barfly is I don't think people are reading Minor Threats, by the way, as much as they should, because
No,
I think it's sincerely good. Especially like right now, we're in such an age where sort of deconstructionist meta superhero stuff is doing so well, and I think maybe some of that is that we've seen historically a lot of bad examples of it, and we're sort of celebrating the good ones now, which is say The Boys, Invincible, right? We're sort of celebrating the good ones right now, but man, the thing about the Minor Threats universe is one is every series is sort of standalone. You don't really need to know what's going on. You just need to know about superheroes. You just need to be familiar with superheroes. And what they do is they sort of find a perspective that you probably haven't seen before, and they do it in a very sort of like not real, but sort of like heartfelt, character-driven way. Yeah. Tim Seeley's The Alternates was incredible. The premise is great, which is these Silver Age heroes become Vertigoed for a few years and then come back to being just normal sort of C-list. Like that, everything about that's so good. And Minor Threats is, of course, it's about, basically D-level villains who maybe upset Batman. Like, what do you do? I think it's such a great premise. Barfly is from the perspective of this sweet little dummy henchman, Shit Eater, the Fly Man with no wings, who was the henchman for a sort of bug-themed supervillain named the Entomologist. All of his brethren are basically dead. The Entomologist is in jail, and it's how he sort of tries to figure out what he is. They called it like a coming-of-age henchman story, which I think is very good. Basically, the Entomologist comes back out. He has awful plans. Shit Eater gets pulled back into it. I think it's a good one. I think Ryan Brown's art is bar none. I think what he's doing on this book is I say this humbly, objectively, and without hyperbole. I think what he's doing is remarkable. It's a tour de force of comedy. It's beautifully rendered. He's such a good artist. No one talks about Ryan Brown and how good he is. Mm-hmm. But I could not do this book. He carries it. It's good without words. It's good without story. Like you could just look at Ryan Brown's stuff. It's just a relentless display of creativity and humor. Every panel has a second or third joke in it. Like every panel. I read these books 3 times. I get pencils and then I get inks, and then when I get inks and I get colors and I get letters. So I see everything 3 times, and I swear I find something new literally every time. And I'm looking at it to make sure he did his job. He did his job. He's very good. So yeah, that's it. We're 2 issues of 4 issues. You don't need to know anything about Minor Threats, but they are very good, especially if you like deconstruction of superhero stuff. And I feel like everyone does when it's done well, right? Like we all like it. We love it because it's like everything's archetypes. Like you just see sort of familiar. There's a shorthand of familiarity that raises the enjoyment level.
Yeah, well, and it's from, at least in part, the mind of Patton Oswalt. And dude is
you know what? That's not true. I don't want to throw Patton under the bridge. It's from the mind of Scott Hepburn. Scott Hepburn created that character, which is he's a little fly with no wingman, and he wears a punk rock jacket.
Well, I meant like just Minor Threats, the world.
Oh yeah. Well, him and Jordan Bloom both really got into it. They love comics. Like it's really refreshing to see dudes like love comics the way those two do. We're like celebrities to them.
The love is absolutely genuine from those dudes.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's see. I know you've got some other cool stuff coming up. We've got the Compendium of Rock Candy Mountain.
Yeah, that's out. So the collected edition came out
in
May.
Okay.
I think it came out in May. It's tough for me to keep track. It's relatively new. The Where Monsters Lie trade's out.
Yeah.
Which we love.
I think you said you got a sequel to Where Monsters Lie coming October?
Yep, it starts on October 26th, just in time for Halloween for all you. Get your spookies, get your spookies lined up.
Did not read the first miniseries last year. What the hell did they miss out on?
A book that sold out every issue. So pretty good, I think. Here's what watch. Let's do elevator pitches for everything. Let's just make a list. You say it in the comments. I'll do the elevator pitch. No, don't.
Okay.
It feels like a trick. Old Head. I can't. Old Head is the one I can't do actually, which is a problem. That makes it so hard to sell. Where Monsters
out of the game.
No, Old Head. We'll come back. Old Head would have been the book I did after Sex Castle, though I'm glad I waited. But I'm glad I waited for a lot of reasons. But my wife was like, one, it's the you'd be the dumb title guy. Like Sex Castle and Old Head would be my 2 books, which is not wrong. And 2, I don't think I could have convinced people to read it. I think I really had to be, because I don't know how to sell it. Like, what's it about? It's about so many things, and so many things happens, and it's weird, and it's off kilter from sort of normal sort of genres-based storytelling or whatever. So I love that book. Chris Schweitzer, I think, says it's like one of my top 3 books, but that changes day to day. He colored it too, so he's somewhat biased. Where Monsters Lie is about a gated community for slasher villains. It's where your sort of favorite slasher movie monsters go in between their sprees, which is ostensibly their films, right? When you see Jason after he kills everyone in 3, like, where does he go until he comes back at 4? Where Monsters Lie sort of answers that. They have an HOA, and someone's doing their grocery shopping and mowing their lawns and all that stuff. And then what happens is a sort of final girl turned secret agent who's been training himself to be a monster hunter finally finds this collection, and all hell breaks loose as he sort of tries to find catharsis and revenge. It's a lot of murder. It's a lot of monster murder.
There's a lot of death in that series.
Yeah, we love it.
I was a little surprised, but also kind of elated when I saw there was going to be a sequel, because there's a lot of characters that die. And
yeah, guess what happens? They go to a new place. There's more monsters. I bet they're okay. I bet everyone's fine.
I'm sure that nothing bad will befall them.
I bet they all get out of it totally okay.
Absolutely all right.
Yeah, I actually, it's funny with Where Monsters Lie, because I would like to do 3 arcs of that too. Please buy volume 2. I'd love to do a 3rd arc where they go to Japan. I would love that so much. And if we do a 4th one, they go to space. But that's all bad sequels do. I was really getting very churchy, sort of about raising the stakes and telling like a very like meaningful story with sort of Secret Agent Connor Hayes, Special Agent Connor. I don't want to keep saying Secret Agent. He's not a spy. He's like an FBI guy. Like this very like dramatic. And I was like, no, it should just be a bad sequel. Like, I don't know why I'm trying so hard. So I made a bad sequel, because I think that's like, you make the thing that you want. And to me, Where Monsters Lie is a horror movie. It's a horror comedy movie.
Yeah.
Because it's literally like, it's real time. Issue 1 to issue 4 is real time, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I just want to do that again. I just want to do another one where they go to a different place and sort of the same thing happens, but it's different. And, the archetypes that I sort of didn't get to touch on. I think it's fun. Peter Kowalski is the same art team. It's the same creative team. Peter Kowalski is so good. He's one of the most professional artists I've ever worked with. Just a pleasure. And I think this is such a good wheelhouse for him, because he's so good at gross things and drawing these beasties, and it's great stuff. We're very excited about it. It's very good. If you like volume 1, and people seem to, you'll like volume 2, which starts October 26th. Ooh-wee.
So you said it, and something I hadn't really considered, but the book takes place in real time. Was there any special challenge to writing a story that takes place like that? Yeah,
and I don't think it was. That did not come first, right? I wasn't like, what if I wrote here's the thing, Old Head's real time. Mm-hmm. Almost every issue of every book is real time. I don't do jumps. I'm not capable of it. In fact, I think there's some part where there's a little bit of a jump, but I think even I Hate This Place, like if it was each issue was a week, you know what I mean? It was like, it's pretty consecutive. I don't jump in time much. I never have. I certainly didn't do this book and go, what if I did a book in real time? But more is that, what is the event? It's that Batman shows up at the Monsters Club. You know what I mean? Like, that's the story. To me, that's like, I just want 4 issues of fighting. I just want mayhem and murder. And sort of as he bumps into each one of these creatures, as he's trying to take them down, can he take them down? There's a sort of a B storyline with a kid who got captured and captured again, and his sort of relentless bad luck. And of course, he's back. He's back for volume 2. Where has he been? Where's the guys who were with him at the end of issue 1 been? So there's a little bit of a time jump, but barely any, even between 1 and 2. I think if you're like, 2 is a week later, it's like, yeah, 2 is a week later, maybe less, maybe 3 days later, So the biggest challenge, I would say, as I tangent so far away from the question, which is what inherent challenges come in that, the biggest challenge I would say is chapter breaks, which issue ends. is that you want them to be dramatic, you want them to be cliffhangers, you want people to go, oh, I want to see what happens next. And to do that in real time means the story has to be broken up in sort of an interesting manner. I think you'll see, though, it's very natural. Like, that book was very natural to that. Like, there was clear parts, like, this is where it stops, this is a good big moment, and then for issue 2, here it is again, it's a good big moment, and then 3. So you only have to do it 3 times, right? Like, only 3 times. In fact, I think 1 ends with Connor Hayes shows up. So the end is easy. It's 2 and 3 are the hard ones, right? Because the end of issue 1 is it's about to pop off. It's about to go down. And that's all you need. Like, I can't wait to see what happens next when all these cops show up in Monsterland. They all die. Spoilers. Spoilers.
So what are the advantages of writing a series of miniseries versus just making something an ongoing? Or disadvantages?
I mean, it's a different skill set. As we sort of talked, like it sort of brought up earlier, like it's a different skill set for sure. Ongoings are tough, man. For me, you have to have sort of the right engine in place. I thought I had that with I Hate This Place. I thought hey, look, Chad's here.
Chad is here. My man.
We were just talking about how good I am at telling stories.
And self-promotion.
And self-promotion is very important. So I say, like, doing ongoings is hard for me because I'm very not even arc-based. Like, I like full stories.
Right.
All of these are full stories. Some of them end with, well, there could be more. In fact, I like there could be more, but I don't have an idea what it is. I told the story, and then I might do an epilogue, right? The ending for Where Monsters Lie, I was fairly certain we were doing a second arc. So for that one, I did that on purpose. It's mean, but I did it on purpose. The ending is very much a cliffhanger, right?
Right.
But other times, Assassination sort of has a cliffhanger. They asked me to put that in after I finished. They're like, would you please do an epilogue? I'm like, okay. Six Sidekicks of Trigger King has sort of something's happening next, but I like beginning, middles, and ends. I like complete stories. So I like 6-issue miniseries because I think, like, when I started, I was doing trades, and they were 160, 180 pages long, right? And I feel like for me, like, that's sort of the best length of time for a comic story. So sort of breaking that into issues has been the biggest challenging part, is because you have to do those chapter breaks that are engaging in some way.
Right.
Ongoings are tough, man. There's a lot of dudes, and there's probably a lot of dudes who probably get some crap for, like, maybe not being the best writers, but any one of them could do 6 issues in a week. If you, like, they had the idea like this, like, if you need to fill in on Darkhawk, like, there's a bunch of guys that can just do that. I couldn't do that. I don't have that skill set. So ongoings are, I mean, I haven't done one. I did Rick and Morty for 5 years, but that was episodic. Each one was standalone. Mm-hmm. And so you go, couldn't you do that? And I'm like, sure. Like, sure, but I don't think that counts. Like, that was just me doing 5 years of single issues, right?
Right.
But I think that's how the show is. I think the show's the same way, so it was suited for that. But if I was doing name random big 2 character, I couldn't do that. I'm not smart enough. I just don't have that, because that's history stuff. Then you're doing lore stuff, and
right.
I do have a theoretical ongoing coming up, and it was the same situation as I Hate This Place, where I was like, I have to find the engine. I have to find the thing that I could do. Because if you're in an ongoing, what theoretically potentially like 50 issues, right? Like, and even that seems like because like Scalped was 80 something and Y was 50. So I'm trying to, like, what's the number? So it's probably more like 30, but even that's a lot. 30 issues is a lot in 2024.
Oh, absolutely.
So you want to kind of have that engine. I remember, when I started, and it's broken me because I'm always like, everything's intentional, which is true. Everything in all my stuff is intentional. Even the bits say something about the character. So everything's very intentional. And sort of the trauma that caused me to look at creating that way is that I thought Preacher did it. I felt like everything in Preacher set up the next thing. I always thought this. Everything was so plotted out. And then I reread it like 2 years ago, 5 years into being a professional. And I'm like, oh, he's just really good at making this up as he goes along. And I saw at a show in Memphis that I was doing, and as I asked him, because I was sure, like, when you read it, I think it's different than when you spend 7 years making things, right? It's different. I'm sure, like, directors do not enjoy movies at all. RT. They're like, oh, look at that. Like they're not watching the story. They're more interested in. You get what I'm saying. And I asked him. He's like, and it wasn't like not really, but it was the answer was not. I wish I could remember exactly what he said, but he's like, yeah. He's like, I kind of knew what the ending might be, but everything in between he was just making up as he went along. It's like you just plant. Some dudes can do that where they just plant seeds and you go, I'll figure it out later. Dude, I can't. I don't have it. Everything's intentional. Everything's intentional, and it's a curse.
So you say you got a new ongoing coming up.
I can't talk about it. It's secret.
Okay. Moving right
I think it's announced 2025. I can't. It's biggest when it gets announced. When they asked me to participate in this thing, I was like, oh, that's going to be a huge deal. But as we get closer to it, I start to think, I'm like, oh, no one's going to care. But that's sort of natural imposter syndrome. But we'll see. When the announcement comes, I think, if anything, I hope everyone's excited. I could just see people not caring. And, it was an honor to be asked no matter what I said. I'm doing it with Steve Pugh, though. I'll tell you that. It's me and Steve Pugh from Peacemaker doing a theoretical ongoing.
Okay. Well, Steve Pugh, I mean, kind of a legend at this point, and kind of killed it on Peacemaker Tries Hard. So there you go.
He was great to work with, too. Every artist I worked with for the last year and a half has been unbelievably professional, just amazing.
That's so awesome. That is so awesome that you can look back and say, yeah, no regrets. It's all good.
No regrets.
So let's get Chad in here. Chad, what the hell?
Oh, yes. Sorry for being late. Well, I think without realizing it, one of the first things of yours that I read was Rock Candy Mountain, and I think I got it on like a Comixology bundle or something. And
Humble Bundle, maybe.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it's on Humble Bundle a lot. Every time, it's so funny when people are like, "Do you mind if your book's in Humble Bundle?" And I'm like, "Dude, put all of them on Humble Bundle. I don't care. Like, we made them to be read. We made them to be consumed. I love. Yeah, I guarantee you it was an Image Humble Bundle. It might not have been, but I feel confident saying it was a Humble Bundle.
Okay. Well, anyway, I mean, I really enjoyed the story, and it was a nice. Because every time I think of it, I want to think of Big Rock Candy Mountain, which I'm sure it's kind of based on the song.
I mean, the book isn't based on the song, but certainly the title draws from it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, if what you had is probably the trade paperback. So when we did the original issues, we did all this really great sort of back matter. Lots of sort of deep dives into hobo culture, the hobo code. And the very first essay is about the history of that song. And that song is bleak and dark. It's got an awful history. And the reason why we did that for the first one is I was surprised at how many people don't know that song. I thought everyone knew that song. So people, because people are like, oh, what are you working on? I'm like, oh, I'm doing this hobo book. It's called Rock Candy Mountain. Get it? And they're like, nope. And I'm like, you don't know that song? Like, I thought everyone knew that song. So the first essay is about the origins of that song, which is pretty interesting for a folk song, honestly, because it goes through this thing. And the collected edition, which just came out, has all those essays in it. So the previous two volumes did not have those essays. It did not have like the cool back. Schweitzer did some drawings of the characters. There's all sorts of cool back matter stuff. There's an essay about the devil. There's an essay. I'm going to blank. There's an essay just about hobo culture, I think, or Jack London, and all that cool stuff's in the collected edition, which is super cool.
Kind of what inspired that story that you wanted to tell there?
Yeah. So this was before when I had normal people jobs, and I was just doing this as a cool hobby. But my first book was called Sex Castle, which was, in my opinion, the greatest 80s action movie never made. My follow-up for that, which we talked about earlier, would have been Old Head, but I got the yips, honestly, because it was kind of weird to pitch, and it's a weird title. And Sex Castle got nominated for an Eisner, and we optioned it, and people were paying attention to me, so I did Kill Them All, which is sort of my love letter to 90s action movies, sort of John Woo meets Die Hard. And I love action films, and I was like, oh, I've never really watched other cultures' action films, and there's a whole universe. And so I started watching Asian cinema, and I came across the genre, which I always mispronounce. It's called wuxia. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is a wuxia, and it's always about people going from point A to point B. They're always journeys, and at some point something like magical happens, but no one ever comments on it. Like maybe you walk on trees, right? Or like a giant frog tells you your fortune, and no one ever goes, "Was that a giant frog?" And no one ever goes, "Did it just tell you your fortune?" And so I was really fixated with these stories. I watched a bunch of these wuxia films, and I was like, "What's the American version of this?" And for it to be a hobo riding the rails, going from one place to another, which is such a iconic idea of like a road trip. It'd be a road trip movie. There's a bunch of different ways you could have done it. But where would he be going? What was he looking for? And of course, it's Big Rock Candy Mountain. And then the story is, well, why? Like, why is he looking for it? And everything fell in place. Like that was a real what I call like a puzzle book for me, because all the pieces just dropped. Like as soon as I had those 3 questions and I answered one of them, everything else fell in line.
Nice. And my other thing that you did recently, which I was the person who from Comic Watch that reviewed it, was the Woofmen in
Who was the Wolfman?
Who was the Wolfman? So it was great. How did you come up with that spin on that, that classic story?
Sure. So, Who Was the Wolfman's in Super Pets Identity Crisis #1. Make sure you buy your copies now, because it'll never exist again, I assume. Here's how that happened. That is not something that I would ever go, hey, I have an idea for. For sure. Basically, I recreated the Watchmen story as newspaper comic strips, but the Watchmen are dogs. What happened is I got an email from the editor at DC that was subjected, "This is the stupidest email I've ever sent." And I go, "Oh, my body is ready." You know what I mean? And it was, "We're doing this thing. Would you have?" There's very specific things that have to happen. They're like, "We're doing this thing. Would you do a Watchmen comic?" No. The answer is no. Would you do a Watchmen comic? No. Of course, I would not. I don't want to contribute to this. You know what I mean? I don't want to contribute to the Gibbons Moore sort of. But then it was like, but as dogs, and I go, oh well, yeah. I love dogs. If it was like, we're gonna do this thing, would you do a Watchmen comic, but it's cats, monkeys, giraffe? I'd be like, nope. A platypus? Nope. I love dogs. I spent a year, like every comic I did last year has a dog in it. Not intentionally, but I like dogs. So they asked me to draw it, which I'm very much, and this kind of Barfly plays into this too, because we talked about it earlier, is that my ego is very much built around sort of recognition. Not like some people are money, some people want adoration. Mine's very much like, oh, you did the thing, right? Like you did the thing. So with Barfly, Patton and Jordan were on podcasts, and I think the Alternates was out, and people were like, well, who else would you like to work with? And they would say my name. Well, just them knowing me and wanting me is like, that's a lot. For me, I'm like, yes, go on. And I hope at one point I'm well read and I'm read enough and recognized enough that I'm like, doesn't work anymore. But so no one has asked me to draw anything in years. So they were like, we want you to draw it and write it. And I'm like, well, no one ever asked me to draw. I haven't drawn since Karate Prom, which was last year. And I'm only very, very happy when I'm drawing things that I wrote. So also the idea that inherently this is so dumb. Alan Moore will not be mad at me. Dave Gibbons will not be mad at me. And I think people are like, if I do it if I do it where it's inherently like making fun of itself, it's a comic strip, right? People will get like it's very tongue in cheek, and it was fun, right? Like, here's the other thing: the worst thing that can happen to me is for someone to be like, "Hey, would you name a property?" and me go, "Oh, I just thought of something. I thought of 3 bits. Like I immediately thought of 3 bits. It's done. It's like I'm like, oh, I kind of want to do it." So it was nice. It was nice that they asked me. But I did not say, hey, I have an idea. They came to me and said, would you do this idea? And if it wasn't dogs, and I'll say this, I read it. If you're, I'll say this comics Reddit, if you're watching, is there's a lot of why is it not Who Watches the Watchdogs? A little on the nose, guys. A little too obvious, right? Let's let's not, come on. The joke isn't they're come on. But someone did say it should have been dog tour Manhattan, and they're correct. That was a mistake on my part. So yeah, I love that. And it's funny. What's funny is I'll tell you, like the moment I turned it in, I thought, oh no, I'm going to have to draw these at conventions forever. Like this is a curse that I placed upon myself. But guys, I've done 3 conventions and nope, no one's asked. So I dodged the bullet. No, don't make me draw them. No, I would. But I was like, oh, I'm going to be recreating Watchmen scenes forever. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm going to figure out a new price point just for, like, I used to have a Rick and Morty price point. And then, like, if you wanted me to draw anything else, right? But I was like, man, people were asking me. No one's asking. So that's cool. No one read it, I don't think, which is fine.
I read it and I enjoyed it.
You guys read it.
Yeah,
it was a fun read, and it was like a nice spin on the story. That, of course, I love dogs too, so you had me sold there too. So.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, if it wasn't dogs, man. I think like those. This is a whole other conversation, but like I did Marvel Unleashed for Marvel, which I'm really proud of. Which. I tried to make the things that I wish existed in the world. So, of course, I would never go, I wish the Watchmen as dogs existed. But if someone asked me, then I'm like, well, that's interesting. So when I did Marvel Unleashed, I very much wanted to do sort of the Marvel book for pet lovers. And I feel like I did that. And that was just, no one read it. And I think there's something about Super Pets or something about Pet Avengers that the reader, it just doesn't attract the readership that other things do because maybe it seems, childish or silly or... So I don't know. We hope people read it. I think Tony Fleeks did a good job. I think everyone did a good job. A bunch of cool covers on that book. I think Marvel Unleashed is great. The guy who drew that, Ches Hervis, on Marvel Unleashed should not have been drawing a dog book. Like he's way too good for that. But I know like those books I know they weren't read, because people aren't talking about them. So they should. If you like pets, you should check out both of those books. 2 good I like pets superhero books for sure.
So if you did have an opportunity to write like just pie in the sky ongoing for Marvel or DC, I mean, who's a character that you would gravitate towards?
Man, it's so tough, and I'll tell you, this is like I have the worst answer for this. So as you guys know, I think I started off as a cartoonist. I think of myself, I think myself as a writer now, but I'm a cartoonist, right? Like right. I have to draw something. I have to draw a 200-page book every 3 years. I have to. It's the only time I'm happy. So I think of myself as a cartoonist, and because of that, I have an inherent privilege over anyone else who's trying to get into comics as a writer or break into comics as a writer is that if I love an idea, I can make it no matter what it is. And I can self-publish it. I don't need a publisher. I've done okay with Kickstarter. Image has always been good to me, right? Like I can always make the thing I want to make. And that's a privilege. So because of that, I live with my ideas in a way that they're going to happen, right? Are you with me? Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I don't in my spare time go, but gosh, what would I do with Ghostwriter? And the reason why I don't do that is because if I come up with a Ghostwriter idea that I love and I can't do Ghostwriter, you know what I mean? Like something I loved is gone. So I don't think of the characters that way. At this stage, I think of them as a challenge. Like I like to be offered things and go, let me see if I can figure out that story. And with Big 2 stuff, it's more challenging to me because like I said, I like to sort of make things that I wish existed in the world, but that is someone else's property with a huge fan base, right? So then not only do I want to make the thing that I wish existed in the world, I want to make something that fans also go, that's my favorite, name one. You know what I mean? Like that's my favorite story. And by the way, I liked it too. I liked it a lot because it's the one I wanted to read, right? So there's this challenge, but so I don't really think hard about them. When they asked me to do Lobo, I was like, oh yeah, like I can do Lobo. I can do Lobo all day. Like him and Peacemaker, big dummies doing violence is like my wheelhouse. big dummies doing violence who have some sort of like under theme of heart to them, even better. Lobo was sort of a nice refresher because unlike Peacemaker, there isn't really sort of a, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about anything. But I think in this book, I think it's Black Label. I said that like I knew it. I don't know if it is, but I took a little part of his history, and I was like, here's a perspective on this that people could be really mad at me about. But Lobo, because I want people to feel something besides just sort of like a relentless barrage of violence and humor. And though that's great, we're here for it. I think having subtext really adds. It feels like a fuller experience, right? So Lobo has way less of that than Peacemaker does because he's Lobo. But I like that. I like finding that story where I go. I read all the Giffen stuff preparing for that. I read all of it, and I read most of it when it came out. But I'm rereading it because I still want it to be more than anything a Lobo book for people who love Lobo, which means they love those Giffen books, right? I very much want people who love those Giffen books to be like, "This is great. Like this is the Lobo I want." But also to tell a Lobo story that I wish existed. So because of that, as I said, long tangent, boop, boop, boop. There are certain characters I think that that would be obvious. Blue and Gold, right? Blue and Gold, obviously. There's certain characters that I could do. Characters that lean funny but are not jokes. I think I could do. But also, it's like I don't know if I don't want to do those. Like I'd rather be asked to do Ghost Rider. Again, that is random. That is apropos. Like name X character, and for me to figure it out. Because I like that. And sometimes you're like, I don't have anything. And why would I do it if I don't have anything? Like, I don't want to. And if the idea is not that good, I'm glad there was like, and I'm not pitching ideas I don't love. I got asked to do a character that I never would have asked me to do, which I'd say the same about Pet Avengers. Why would you ask me, the adult humor, character-driven violence guy, to do an animal book? But I like the challenge of it. And I love pets. Like, I love pets. And like I said, I found the angle. So there isn't one. The sort of what is like the sort of like minor answer to this is that Erica Henderson and I have always said that if someone wanted us to do an ongoing Trimmer series, we would be on it immediately. So that's sort of like the fake answer to it. But I don't. Your property, like I've had such success doing my own thing that I'm not beholden to those properties. But I grew up on them, and I love all of them. But I want to do something that's still my voice because I think it's unique. I say humbly. I think it's a unique voice and that you can tell my stuff is my stuff. And I don't want to force myself into, I don't want to square peg or round hole, all that stuff. You get what I'm saying?
Sure.
So I don't think about it. Though that being said, I'm maybe about to pitch something to Black Label that's a major character. It probably won't happen, so I don't have to worry about it. I'm sorry. Like, have I done the pitch? No, because I'm not married to it, so I'm not there yet.
Animal Man.
The Animal Man's been done. You'll never beat Grant Morrison. You'll never beat Grant Morrison. Though like that Animal Man run, that Justice League run, which was pretty much the same time by Giffen DeMatteis. Like those are GOAT series to me. Also, Maxi series is in my mind. I know Justice League went on much longer, but there's really a window when it's like, it's something else. But those two both ran for 35 issues where you're like, Jesus, there's nothing like these ever. Super good stuff. I'm not trying to mess with Grant Morrison, man. Come on.
Well, come on. Surely you're up for the challenge of reading.
No, I've already messed with Alan Moore. So
I know, but with cartoon dogs, like that's what I'm bringing to the fight. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm bringing to the fight.
So that's good. So what are the? So you've pretty much published, Boom, Dark Horse, Marvel, DC. I mean, obviously you can't have a favorite baby or anything like that. But what are pros and cons of working for the big two versus some of the smaller publishers?
I thought you were going to maybe do pros and cons of each publisher.
Oh no, I'm not that bad of an
I was like, well, let's burn some bridges. No. If that's a really good question. Usually when I'm asked questions that are in that vein, they're like, oh, what's it like to write for someone else instead of yourself? Or what it's like to write Thanos instead of I hate this place. The pros and cons. I'll tell you this. The big two are the most professional. Mm-hmm. In terms of the business part, it's very clear. People see it. You get paid correctly. Their desires are clear. I would say I have to be very careful. If there's like a giant pie, I don't have to. generally speaking, the editors I've dealt with at the big two are very, very good. Generally speaking, I have a few on the indies that I really like, but there's a lot that I go, you know what I mean? Which is not a knock to anyone, but I'll say like Will Moss, Tom Brevoort, Matt Levine, Chris Conroy, Ariana Toronto, who's doing Lobo. Those dudes were great. Chris DeRosa let me do Wild Dog. Let me do Wild Dog for DC. That's great. And he let me be me. That's great. It's tough to mess with that. I would say the pros and cons are probably this, and it's purely speculative at this point. I think that the pros of working with Marvel DC, if you're just a comic writer, like you're not, Donny Cates, Tim, those guys love those superheroes, right? Like they love them, and that's what they want so badly. So we're going to sort of remove that. You're just a writer in comics. The pro of working for Marvel DC, especially if you can do it for a while, Peacemaker showed this, so it's not enough, is that you get a bump. It validates you to the direct market at large.
Yeah.
There's very few, very, 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 very few people who had huge successes that did not work for some period of time with Marvel or DC. It just doesn't happen because in the direct market, that's where the majority of readers are, and you have to be seen as a legitimate creator, right?
Right, quote unquote.
So, quote unquote. The pros of working in the indies is that it's you. It's your thing. It's your baby. It's your vision. Which means you don't have the shorthand of 75 years of history. You know what I mean? You don't have the shorthand of that's Batman. So there's a con to that. It's you will sell less issues. Generally speaking, I would love to see my sales numbers for like Marvel Unleashed or Peacemaker. I bet they're comparable to like Where Monsters Lie, but I hope they're more comparable to I Hate This Place, which did really, really well. So there's pros and cons. I think probably most people would say the best thing you can do is sort of do a couple good, strong years. I would love, like, if I could get a 12-issue something I could hit home runs with at Marvel DC, I'd love that because those people will come with me, and Peacemaker showed that. The reason why we did Rock Candy Mountain is because it's selling, and it hadn't been. It's selling again really well, and Image was like, what if we did a collected edition, which is to say, here's a new edition we can promote of the story that people are buying, and I have no doubts whatsoever that's because of Peacemaker. I Hate This Place, which again was very popular. It was extremely popular. Like, thank goodness. War was great. Where Monsters Lie sold out every issue. I think those people who were finding me, who were just discovering me and my voice, Rock Candy Mountain, for whatever reason, I don't know why, was the book that people were getting. Maybe because it's in stores, because it could have sold better. It's still sitting in stores, or maybe because the stores that like me, and there's thankfully a fair number of those. There's certain books I think they probably keep around, like Rock Candy Mountain is an easier sell than Sex Castle because it's not called Sex Castle. It's like fundamentally, it's got a. I think Rock Candy Mountain is my tightest. I think you could make an argument. Even now, I think you could make an argument that Sex Castle and Rock Candy Mountain are my best two books. But I say that like Peacemaker's. In my opinion, Peacemaker is unbelievable. Where Monsters Lie, I think, is a tight 4 issues, like just a fun, tight 4 issues. So I think I'm getting better. But if you were like, they're like my litmus test. If you like Kyle Starks, like I would do Sex Castle and Rock Candy Mountain over Oldhead, hard to sell, a great book, hard to sell, or like Trigger Keaton, or you know what I mean, like Assassination has Erica Henderson on it, so it seems like I thought when we did it, it was a no-brainer. Like we're going to sell 100,000 copies, but no, we did not. We did not. So, so yeah, that's the pros and cons. I think the pros are is that, and here's the thing, man. Most of us, and I did. I'm 47, but I quit reading direct market comics for the most part in 1995, 1996. And I came back 7 years ago. So I missed a lot of history and a lot of time, and I had to catch up, obviously, because I love comics. But I got out of it, and when you get away from it, like you just see opportunities. But it's still the same, man. Marvel and DC are what counts. Like they're the ones that count if you want to be considered like a validated, legitimate creator.
We clearly need the Marvel Unleashed sequel. Then.
Sales decide everything, In fact, people go, have you been asked to do more Peacemaker? And they've never said anything. And there's sort of two sides to that coin. One is Black Label, very much like standalone stories.
Right.
They're like, so for my ego, I go, that's what it is. But I've also seen the royalties, and it could be better. It wasn't well read. It wasn't well received. I'm hoping season two. We get a lot more Peacemaker, because I think if you like that show, you'd love the comic, and it seems.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because the comic, it's not the same world as it's like a fictionalized version of the world of the show.
It's as close as we can get legally speaking.
Yeah.
Which is weird. You'd think, but everything's complicated.
Indeed. But you got to play around with a French gorilla, Monsieur Malin.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, all of those villains were me going, what if they don't ask me to do anything again? Like, if I only get to do one DC book and only have one DC villain in it, it's got to be Mala in the Brain. For me, it has to be Snowflame, the cocaine-powered super. Like, I was also like, they're gonna say no. I can't go with it. Kimmo, and I'll tell you behind the scenes, Kimmo. I wanted it to be old Kimmo, like Golden Age Kimmo, Mike Mignola, Who's Who Kimmo, which just looks like a plastic man. Like, he's just like a smooth jar man, because I think it's like the most ridiculous design, and they used modern Kimmo, and I'm still a little salty about it. But neither here nor there. I still got to use Kimmo, who is like, what a great character. All of that was me going, what if they never ask me again? And them saying yes also. So General Mortis, I love General Mortis. What a good villain. He's just really old, guys. He's just super old. He's seen it all.
Chad?
So how have you grown as a creator over the years, both as, in your writing and, your art, and what advice would you have for your younger self?
The second part's interesting. I would say my biggest growth is, when I started, I did trades. I did OGNs, and I'm always, listen, this is not, young me knew this, but I'm always trying to get better. I'm always trying to do the things I couldn't pull off before. I'm always looking at greats to see what they could do. You know what I mean? I think if you're not objective about the work, then you can't grow. So I'm always trying to get better. I would say from when I started, my peer and my colorist and frequent collaborator and best friend, Chris Schweitzer, said in not so many words, he's like, your issue endings kind of stink. And he wasn't wrong. Not that they were bad, but so it's like that was like, I got to get better at ending issues. My ending issues need to be good. They need to be compelling in a way so my thing used to be is I would just kind of tell you what's going to happen next. Oh, next issue, they fight a bear. And I go, oh, don't you want to see them fight a bear? In my head, I go, I want to see them fight a bear. I can't wait to see it. I'm so glad to know I can't wait for a month to see them fight a bear. Whereas now I try to do things that sort of like ask a question of the reader, like, don't you want to see what comes next, right? Like, what could come next? Rather than just outright saying it. So the other ways is, I'm doing a lot more writing for other people. That's hard because they are, it's their job. Like, I'll do a 16-page panel for my stuff. I think for Old Head, I think it averages, I think I counted once, it was 7.5 panels per page for what a 120-page book. I can't remember what it is. Whereas I would never, I hesitate to ever ask an artist to do more than 6 because it's their job. They're working, right? And I feel like being like, hey, now here's a 12-panel page. Man, it would have to be so necessary. So sort of finding a way to tell stories that are easier for artists to do, I think is my biggest growth. And from that to say, because I think there's a window where it's like, these are fine. I think maybe even, like I said, Assassination, though those guys were so good, they add panels, is to find a way to keep my rhythm for when I draw my own things, because I think that's what people like, is to sort of get the rhythm and get the bits and still keep all the meat. So to figure out how to do that for other artists who I won't have do more than 6 panels is probably where I'm at right now. And I think I'm nailing that, because I think you have to have character stuff. I think in other people's work, that's the stuff that goes first. And for me, I think it's really what carries it. And that means bits that only exist to make you like the character more, right? So they aren't necessarily conducive to advancing the story, though I will say mine are. They always are. because they say something that you'll need to know later about that character. So that's the other thing is like 20 pages is nothing. 20 pages is nothing. I would say in 2024, I'm very comfortable with 20 pages. It's now it's both too much and too little at the same time, which is crazy. 24 is much better, but making those adjustments, I think that's my growth where I'm at now. I would say right now, again, I'm doing a theater ongoing. To be able to go, this is a 12-issue series. I would love to have that skill. I would love to be able to transfer what I do now into that. You're always trying to get better, man. You know what I mean? Like, look at Brubaker. You're always trying to be better. You're always trying to find not a different way to do things, but like I don't think I've repeated a story or a genre per se yet. Where Monsters Lie is the exception. Obviously, it's a follow-up, but like that's another thing. I want to keep it fresh. I want to keep doing different things that still feel like me, and that means I have to get better. For some of that, I have to get better. I'd never really done a romance. Karate Problems, a romance that I think is really successful. So yeah, it's always good. Advice I would give. I tell you what, man. Here's the advice I give, and this is like what a cop out, but it's true. I've only had one regret in comics, and that is that Rock Candy Mountain was 2 volumes. That's my biggest regret in comics because Sex Castle has sold steadily. Listen, I'm not getting rich, but I get a very, very small check every year for Sex Castle, and I think Rock Candy Mountain would have done the same. So the advice I would have given is like, just do one trade, man. Like, just wait and do one trade because they said I could have. I mean, and at the time I just did what I was told because I didn't know any better.
Sure.
Other than that, I've been really lucky. Like, I don't have any dogs. I don't think. I don't have any books that I'm ashamed of or that I wish were different. I'm really pleased with, because I've always tried to make the thing that, like I said, I'm trying to make the thing I wish existed. And so if you do that successfully, even the ones like I've always been kind of down on Assassination. I reread it. It was very popular sort of post-pandemic for book clubs. So I would reread it to do these book club things, these interviews. And it's like, man, I'm like, no, it's really good. I don't know why. It's because editorial this, editorial that. It's always outside influences. It's not the comic that make you sort of look at it differently. So I don't have any, there's nothing I'd be like, don't do that, do this. I don't know what I could have done different, you know? It's worked out pretty well for me so far, and I hope it continues.
Right.
Ask me 20 years from now, if I'm still alive.
67, the odds are with you.
Not in my family. We're trying now.
Oh, okay.
I hope so because I'm like just a year behind you. So, you know.
We're eating right. We're doing the exercises. We're doing the best we can.
Sure.
I do. I'll be 44 in about 3 weeks. So
it flies by.
I'm chasing you guys.
It flies by.
So
are you going to be attending any conventions through, from now through the end of the year or so?
Yeah, the last 2 that I'm doing, I'm not doing New York. I got COVID last year, and I didn't make enough money to get COVID. I will probably go back next year to that. But the only ones I've left are Memphis, which is a convention I really like a lot. It's a very nice regional show. They always have a good guest list. It's a show I do it and the food's great. It's Memphis. Memphis is a great city. And I'm doing basically a local show, which is the Owensboro Comic and Toy Convention, which is put on by the people who do Lexington Comic and Toy Convention, which is a really, really great regional show, which is, I would say, just shy of like C2E2. Not shy. It's like, a third, maybe smaller. But it's the next best in sort of this immediate region where I live show. So they do a very small local show, and I'm happy to do it. And then I'm working, man. I'm just trying to get some work done, and I'm looking forward to it, honestly, because I've been so busy the sort of last 10 months. I've been so busy. I'm really excited just to be able to focus on some things and get back to work at a pace that I want, you know what I mean, a pace I'm able to. So we have exciting things coming out. Like I have a completely done series with Dark Horse that's just sitting there, right? Just waiting to be announced. This secret project, which again should be a big deal. Will it be? I don't know if it is. All I can do is do my best, which is what I'm doing. But so there's some stuff coming down the line. I feel like I'm forgetting something that I did, which sucks because like surely I haven't forgotten, but I was so busy over the last 10 months. I feel like there's something else out there that I just can't remember I did.
Okay.
I don't know. I think we've covered just about all the bases that I can think of, unless you've got some.
No, I was thinking of what's forthcoming. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the past year. Oh, we haven't talked about Pine and Merrimack. We didn't talk about Karate Prom. We didn't talk about Wild Dog. Though I said it. Though who cares? Brave and the Bold. Those are so hard to like. Good luck. They'll never reprint that. That and Woofmen. It's like they'll probably never be reprinted. That's like to me is like so. I'm all about legacy. I'm such a legacy, which is what Old Head is about. I keep pointing. I can't use the Old Head in many ways is about my fixation with legacy. So like to have something out there that probably won't be reprinted is like hopefully are they announcing more of those super pets? I think there's just one. Does anyone know? Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be a collection of those at some point. I think it might just be a one shot.
Who doesn't love super pets?
Sales says a lot of people.
Hey.
I think it was. Wasn't it like a fifth week kind of sort of thing that they did? I think
it was just a throw-in thing, though. I don't know for sure. Renewing those licenses
because it was. I think that week that it came out, DC only had like maybe 3 books out.
Well, that means everyone had more money to buy. I don't know. That's all beyond me. That's all. All I can do is try to tell good stories for you guys, and hope people engage them.
And that's what we love about you, man. You're just out there trying to humbly do the right thing by yourself and by your fans.
Yep, that's very kind of you.
Absolutely, dude. I mean, all kinds of respect for anybody that's just out there making their own way, doing their own thing.
Well, we all are, really. Really, we all are, yeah.
Doing our best.
Shout out to all of us.
Shout out to all of us.
Shout out to everyone.
All right, I had to get one swipe in. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
But Kyle, we do appreciate you hanging out with us for the evening. And,
yeah, thanks for asking.
Absolutely, dude. I'm be happy to have you back in another amount of time, and we'll talk shop some more.
Of course, we love it.
Awesome. We'll talk that supposed ongoing series in the Dark Horse.
Yeah, the mystery series. And by that time, we should be able to talk about Where Monsters Lie, Volume 2 as well. So
October. I think probably. I think it'll be October. It'll be wrapped up. So Volume 2 could be about to come out when they make this announcement. I think it's February next year. So that could change. That could change. Who knows what anyone are doing? I'm just. You know what I am is just, I'm just. I'm not even like a boat. Like I'm like a dinghy. You know what I mean? I'm just out here bobbing around. Who knows what's happening? What will be done to me? I don't know. All I can do is just yell stories at people as the seagulls come by. Have you heard this one about Lobo? He's a spaceman, and boy is he mad. He loves violence. Let me tell you a story. And the seagull's like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "He's a Caesarian." You don't know it? All right, hold on. That's all I can do. So we're doing it though. We just hope people enjoy it.
And you're making it enjoyable as you do it. So
very kind. We're trying. That's all we're trying for. So I appreciate that.
All right. Well, Chad, who do we have next week?
I want to say Joe Harris.
Joe Harris is coming by next week. That's awesome. We'll be talking a little bit.
I think he has a Zoop campaign coming out.
Sweet.
Oh.
Love it. Love to hear it. Well, until next time, that's our show. Thank you for listening to the Comic Watchers. And as I usually say, in some way, shape, or form, the world can be a crappy place, but it doesn't have to be. Get out there, do something right by your fellow man, read something cool, support your local comic book store, and just don't be a dick. Thank you very much for listening.